Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and today we're going to take a look at Gary Ablett and do a bit of a player profile on him. There has been quite a few comments in regards to doing one on him. There won't be too many more, probably not many at all, maybe one or two if we'll get the time, but there probably are a few more pressing issues on a broader SuperCoach perspective, so I'll probably take a bit more of a focus to that. But first off, apologies about the audio in the rookie wrap-up. I mean, it's a good quality vid, I'm sure you guys appreciate, but it isn't a quality vid in regards to audio. I had a few troubles there with just getting it off the recorder that I do it on onto the computer, so I had to bumble around with that a little bit, and it didn't quite come out how I would have liked. If it was maybe a 5-minute video, I would have just redone it, but given it was 35 plus, that sort of meant that I didn't quite want to redo that fully, since I first thought the first take was reasonable. So nonetheless, it came through okay. Not the best audio I'll ever hear, but nonetheless some reasonable info. So if you haven't checked that out, get along to it. Haven't sold it overly well, but it is some good content. But straight off, we'll get into Gary Ablett now. Of course, we take a look at a few more of the popular players throughout the pre-season, and Ablett hasn't exactly been that. I mean, since when have we seen a pre-season where Gary Ablett hasn't been at the forefront of discussion? Seems like every pre-season we're talking about how much time will he play forward, can he possibly back up that year, is he worth paying the price tag? That has been the discussion around the likes of Gawn and Dangerfield this season, where Ablett has pretty much gone under the radar largely into the last couple of weeks. We don't see him too much, he doesn't play too much pre-season, and tends to just get himself right for the season proper, and he has done exactly that. Now, of course, he is pretty expensive these days. You know, he's still over the 600k mark at 620, but it's far from the lofty price tag we've seen in previous seasons. He is in 7% of sides. Now, that is, if my memory serves me correct, nearly doubled over the last couple of weeks. I remember he was certainly in about 4% of sides at one stage as a real POD. Who would have thought? But all of a sudden, maybe a few people are thinking they can get the little master as a point of difference. I'll roll through the pros and cons before I hand out a verdict. And of course, the pros, they are that he is Gary Ablett. He is one of the best players of the modern era, arguably the best. You can make the case he's one of the best players of all time. And I guess the point is, can he continue that? Averaged 114.1 last season, but that was actually his lowest since 2006. But nonetheless, he does set pretty high standards. Certainly his scoring cannot be questioned. When he does play, which hasn't been as often as he would have liked in recent years, his scores are phenomenal. He's one of those rare players that can go absolutely enormous with ease. Does it all. As we know, he kicks goals, racks up possessions, clearances, does the lot. Certainly can go big and is a fantastic player, I don't have to tell you that. And I guess the question mark will be around his body. But as far as pros go, we just can bank on his scoring. We know what he's about as far as that's concerned. So we really just have to get his body right, and we'll be very comfortable. And a pro about his selection this season is that possibly you could get a top 5 scorer as a point of difference. Most of the time it has not been the case with Gary Ablett. You've certainly either been on board or you haven't, and you've paid the price if you've missed out. Where at this stage a lot of people are steering clear, which I can understand, but if you do get on board and he does get it right, then all of a sudden you could be reaping your rewards, because I don't see his performance dropping off anytime soon. Maybe slightly, but he probably just comes back down from Ablett standards to normal premium, really. I mean, that 114 was his lowest since 06, as I said. We'd take 114 every day of the week from a premium midfielder. So he's a SuperCoach scorer of the very best. His cons, of course, those shoulders. Extremely concerning, not just because he's done them once, but a number of times. And we know with Gary, he likes to come back and be at 100%. So he certainly won't be rushing back if he does get a little knock or a niggle. And I understand his thought process around that, that's fine. But it does just mean that maybe if Gary is copping an injury similar to another player, that other player might miss 3 weeks. Gary's definitely going to miss 4, maybe 5. He likes to be cherry ripe, and rightly so. I think in those past injuries he has taken longer than expected. a lot longer than expected at times, so that's a little bit concerning. And I guess with these shoulder injuries, you hear people talk and you just hear them say that they're never quite the same, the shoulders. They can limit your ability to really go in and win the hard ball. They never quite have the same flexibility and range of motion as you once did. And I think in Ablett's case, having done him a couple of times, the confidence around that will be the biggest thing. And he was criticised for that in previous seasons as well, last season in particular, for not actually going in and skirting the packs a little bit, which I thought at the time was harsh criticism, but you could probably make the case that it was fairly just. I mean, he is known to win the hard ball, get in there and break away. Maybe didn't do as much as that, but I think once we saw him get back to full confidence and full fitness, we certainly saw the Gary Ablett we know. So I think the games tally the last 3 years is concerning, 14, 6 and 15. So the major concern is, will we get a full season out of Gary Ablett? You'd have to think not, but again, like we say with Dane Beams, if we can get 18 games out of him, maybe that's enough. I'm not too sure, but maybe you'll be happy with, 18 games at 116 points per game from Gary Ablett, a point of difference. So, look, the shoulders are the main concern. It's a simple one in a way with Ablett. We know he can score. Shoulders are a concern. Do you think he's fit? If so, you'll probably pick him. It's a bit like Beams, but I think with Gary, the talk about him playing forward, yeah, look, it's a slight concern, but I don't see him playing any more forward than previous seasons by any margin. Maybe a little bit more. I mean, Eid has said that he will play a bit more forward. So, look, we might see it ever so slightly, but I do feel that the Suns will be trying to win matches. And what helps them win matches? Gary Ablett in the middle. They'll also be helping and looking to develop their younger players. So, I guess the fear might be, at this stage of the year, every club is looking to win matches. The Suns will be aiming for finals. That's just how footy clubs work. So perhaps the first 8 games, Gazza is going in the guts and looking great. The Suns lose 6 games, they're 2-6, they drop another, they're 2-7. Perhaps that's when Eid says, look, Brody, get in the guts. Ainsworth, have a run. Jack Bowers, get stuck in there, mate. Those younger players get more of an opportunity. And perhaps when finals is out of the equation, Ablett may then spend a little bit more time forward, which is a genuine concern of mine. As far as a verdict, I'm going to probably err on the side of no, but can certainly understand why you would go with Gazza. I think the fact that he can score such unbelievable points makes him hard to resist. And the fact that he's been one of the most popular players for so many years, all of a sudden these injuries have made him somewhat untouchable. As I mentioned, that ownership has gone up a little bit in the last couple of weeks after his JLT performance, where he had 22 touches and kicked the 2 goals and looked reasonable. I think it's certainly risky, that's for sure. He's certainly shown the ability to still score well, but equally, those shoulders have just caused him problem after problem after problem, and they do seem to be struggling to get back to full strength. And I think that's been the concern, is that it's easy for him to re-injure, whether it be a hard tackle. We've seen him go by just a bump and just an awkward sort of landing. They do seem to be very unstable. I will not be going with him simply because of that fact. You guys probably know my philosophy on those type of players. Unless they're absolutely burning the house down as far as form goes, to pick a guy who is such an injury risk at over 600,000, even the little master, one of the champions of our game, I do feel it's just far too risky. I know the people will look with starry eyes and go, gee, I can get Gary Ablett at just 7% ownership. The little master's going to be a top 5 scorer. He can be my point of difference. What more reliable point of difference than Gary Ablett? We'll just be wary that those injuries could flare up. And the kicker is that I do feel, while Gary Ablett isn't going to become a small forward, I don't think that talk is correct. Yes, he could probably kick 50 out of the forward line, but I don't think they're just going to plonk him forward. I do feel particularly the first half of the season, we'll see Ablett play a fair bit in the midfield. And if the Suns do start to struggle, well, that's when you start to do a bit of an experimentation. And probably Gary becomes more of a mentor, leader. you know, I think they'll certainly look to blood more youngsters through the midfield if their finals chances go dashing. So that's probably a little bit of a concern. So for me, it's got to be a no, just because, as I've said with many players, there's a few more uncertainties and question marks surrounding them. And at 600k, you really can't afford to have any question marks, and only slight ones that you have confidence will not be a question over them. Where Gazza, they're quite realistic. Can definitely get injured, very susceptible to that, and is a very valid option up forward at some stage in the season. I don't think he'll play forward permanently, but the option for him to be a quite regular forward, particularly in the latter stages of the seasons, if the Suns do struggle, which many expect, and then development starts to come into the focus for the coaching staff, that would be my major concern. So for me, I'm probably saying steer clear of Gazza. So let me know your thoughts on that. Some people seem very keen on him. I know I've had a few requests, and obviously his ownership has gone up a little bit after that one JLT game, just seeing that he is full fitness, but we'll have to wait and see how he does go. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying it. We are nudging 600 now, so I'd very much like to pass that over the weekend. That would be absolutely fantastic. And comment, as always, give me your thoughts on this video and Gazza as a selection. As I said off the top, probably not many player profiles to come. Maybe Billings or Steele or something like that, but we've certainly got plenty of more topics to cover. You know, structurally, we're going to have a look at that. We've got the rookie video, certainly check that out. Going to have a look at those injury boys in the middle, Beams, O'Meara, Swallow. How many mid-prices can you go in that forward line? We've got a lot of them to choose from. How do you set up in the ruck? That's something we've got to have a think about as well. How many rookies can we start in the back line? Definitely a consideration as well. And of course, my team reveal. Now, that's something I think I'm going to have to do. It wasn't initially my plans, but people seem to be obsessed with what Shorty's team's looking like. You can pretty much gauge and draw a picture of what my team's looking by if you tune into every player profile, because I've profiled most of the guys who are in my side, and I obviously say yes to them. But I guess we like to see the exact pen to paper sort of lineup that I'm rolling with. So, look, I've got work next week, so I'm probably going to be a little pressed for time, but I will look to do it. Probably on Thursday or something like that. It might come out before the Richmond-Carlton game. There is a lot of interest around it, so I guess that's what the channel's about, you know, trying to appeal to what the viewers actually want. So I'll certainly look to be doing that for you guys in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that one. Might do a bit of a, you know, the old face cam for that too. Might be the second crack at that. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Plenty more to come. Pre-season's been a big one, but thanks for being on board throughout. We're nearing the end of it, but it is the most exciting and most critical time. So stay tuned in. Plenty to come over the next week. I'll chat to you soon.